Soosen, a mountain ridge not far from the city of Ekhe, was long ago the home of an important trollwoman generally called the Lady of Soosa. The lady and her ancestors before her had lived in that ridge since ancient times, but near Ekhe is Renneslet, a training field for Sweden's army. Once soldiers began shooting there, or cracking nuts as the trolls themselves said, the Lady of Soosa could find no peace in her ancient home, and she fled to her sister, another powerful troll woman who lived in Skudugata, the very same mountain in the story of Pelle Cat. The Lady of Soosa was very skilled in magic, very rich, and very cranky. It was best not to give her any cause for offense, because if you did, it would be punished immediately. Gravendal of Fleesby, a cavalry soldier serving in Smolan's dragoons, was standing guard one morning on a remote part of the training field, when he caught sight of a very little old lady, a crone, wandering along the edge of the woods. In his arrogance, Gravendal sent the old hag away with hard words, but the same moment he spoke, he took a blow on his ear that sent him up into a tall pine tree, where he stayed until he could get some assistance from his comrades. On the other hand, people who were decent to the lady earned a sort of goodwill from her. One poor old woman, a real human, not a crone or a troll, lived in a little hut near Soosa. Once she was in great need. She was out of bread and had no close neighbors, and already famine was a guest in her house, sitting at her table looking at her, grim and threatening. Late one evening she heard a pounding on her door. "For God's sake, just come in," she cried, feeling unusually peevish. "I'm not going to enter in that name, but I do bring work for you from the Lady of Soosa. Spin good thread with this linen here, but don't use spit to wet it, because then the thread would be Christian, and the lady doesn't tolerate that." "Where should I drop off the thread?" asked the old woman, trembling. "Go straight into the forest, and you will find a green and level clearing. Leave the thread there, and the next day you shall get your payment." The old woman found linen fiber right outside her door, and she began to spin right away. She placed a bowl of water next to her, which she used to wet the thread. Soon she had finished the skein, and she walked straight out of her door and into the woods. Just as the troll's maidservant had said, she came to a lovely grass-grown clearing surrounded with tall, leafy trees. She laid her thread down upon the grass and hurried home without looking back. The next day she returned to the same clearing to find a new bundle of fiber and a few silver coins. A golden age now dawned for the poor old lady. With her new job, she collected money and grew rich, but she grew greedy too. She forgot her prayers, which she had never before neglected when she lay down to sleep. Finally, she didn't even bother to keep her word with the troll, and one day she spun linen the common way, wetting the thread with her spit. Finished with the work, she laid the skein down in the usual place, but when she went back the next day to collect her money, she couldn't find the clearing, and on top of that got lost in the woods. She didn't find her way back until a whole day had passed, and when finally home she rushed to count her money, only to find that all of her fine silver coins had turned to pebbles. She found herself in dire straits once more, this time much worse, because no one wanted to help a woman who had done business with the infamous Lady of Soosa, and the old woman died in misery shortly thereafter.